But yeah, I'll introduce myself really quickly here. Carrie, Hiner, Austin, Texas. I've been a licensed realtor for about 8 years. I bought my first investment property in Austin or in Minneapolis when I was 22, which is a great market, a little bit more volatile than Austin, but Minneapolis is a great city. So I'll put in a good pitch for that. But I no longer have property in Minneapolis, and I'm just here in the Texas area. So as a realtor, most of my business is investor buyers, probably about 50%. The other 50% would be owner occupants, folks that are moving here, people that are downsizing, upsizing, et cetera, just the regular residential resale buyer. So I'm pretty split, but everybody's question, whether you're an investor or if you are an owner occupant, is gosh, Carrie, is this a good time to buy? Is this a time to sell? Is this a boom or is this a bust? And of course, that is the $1 million question, right? And my goal here today is kind of to present you some information about what's going on in Austin, Texas, what's in the pipeline, and what really is making our marketplace. I think the last presenter did a great job in explaining economics, and I would say again that everything in Austin is economics as well. So I'll answer some questions here at the end, but I just want to go through and give an overview of what's going on in Austin. This is a appreciation map that Texas National Title made. And these are the zip codes in the Austin metro. The center here is the downtown area, and from there on out is suburbs. And you know, just about everything is over 30%. So perspective on what happened in COVID. I call these our COVID spikes. And I'll go into that here next. So history about Austin. Where do we start? Where are we going? Austin now has a bigger, brighter reputation, I think, than it ever has before. We were just, we started out as a capital city. So we've got all the representatives and legislators that live here. And then we have University of Texas at Austin, big school, 50,000 students. And, you know, early 80s, 90s, some of the tech companies moved offices here. We've always had Dell, Texas Instruments, which is now NI or National Instruments, Intel, IBM, 3M. So those were kind of the early tech founders.
Yeah, Carrie. Also, it's important to note too that well, AMD is there. They have a big campus on the west side. I don't know if you're going to talk about some of the future ones like Samsung and all those, but this is, from what I've read, Austin is the semiconductor mecca of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will talk about Samsung. Just, you know, that list right there, the Dell, the National Instruments, Intel, IBM, those are really the guys that were here first. And then it really shows you how tech attracts more tech, right? Because if you're a tech company, you want to have offices here because there's other good tech employees. So when you're building your company and you want to retain and attract people, it's great to be in a town that has other tech. So the tech momentum just really started there in the 90s. And simultaneously, you know, South by Southwest. If you didn't know of Austin for being the capital of Texas, or for UT, you knew of Austin as South by Southwest. That's now the largest live music festival in the world, the largest. You know, we're talking 300,000 to 400,000 people here every spring. The amount of money from that link of tourism is huge. So we've always had the art, the food, the creatives. We've always had the line, keep it weird, Austin. And we're on all the top lists, the rankings, the fittest cities, the best places to live, best places to get married, maybe find a date or start your career, or best place
Yeah,
for young folks.
One thing that I in my book that I wrote, I talk about the importance of following the millennials and the young Gen Zs, and I would wager that Austin is the youngest city right now, and the only ones that would come close to it would be like a San Diego. I mean, I can't even think of any ones that would compare, but it's a very young city, which is drawing a lot of the trends, a lot of the entertainment. And a good part of that reason is because your first bullet point here, UTA, the students stay, right? And this is, if you think about like a Cleveland, Ohio, right, that has some good colleges, they've had a problem keeping their students there because it's not really that much of an entertainment city. Weather's kind of poor. So it's quite the opposite of cities that don't keep their graduate students. And so I've been very shocked at how young the city core is. And I think that obviously creates a lot of trend setting, a lot of building around the city core.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. We are a young city. I believe it's around 36, which is, good 5-7 years from a lot of the other big cities. And I think that's what keeps Austin youthful, is that we do have a lot of young folks moving here that are eager to be a part of the startups or here for the fun stuff, the lifestyle, the active lifestyle. So here's some numbers. I didn't want to make this all about numbers. I am a numbers person, but I felt like this was kind of a global discussion about Austin, a global discussion about the market. So I don't have a ton of data here, but I did want to show you kind of from 2007 to 2021, what our prices have done. I did want to separate the city of Austin from Austin and the suburbs, just because the city prices have always done better, and I think they always will. Now, we do have some suburban communities that are higher price, but Austin is the most desirable place to live, and I think the other prices are just kind of a shadow and will continue to rise based on what Austin is doing. But my other purpose here for this graph is really showing that we didn't have much of a blip. There wasn't much of a drop, a decline in prices in Austin during the most recent Great Recession. So of course we did have some price drops, but we're talking 2, 4, 5, 6% from 2008, 2009, and already by 2010, we kind of moved out of a flat line and start increasing already. So the big important things to point out, Austin, Texas did not drop in prices as large as some of the other big cities. So during that recession, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, those cities were going down in the double digits. Austin didn't do that at all. We've always been steady, really, really steady. And then up here to 2020 is what I call our COVID spike, which we know that those prices have done those double digit, the 20-30% price appreciations nationally over that year. But in Austin, I feel like we were kind of ripe for that anyhow, and we're continuing to be ripe for that because we're still so much more affordable than other similar cities with similar attributes: great weather, great tech, the population growth, all
Carrie,
the things that are making
up. I think it's you that doesn't like to compare square footage, I believe. Maybe not, but
it is.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not a square footage person.
So, right. So if you
look, but we can talk about that.
Yeah. So if you look at the Bay Area, where a lot of people are coming from, New York, square foot does matter out there, right? And you are paying on the low end about $1,000 a square foot to as high as $1,500 a square foot. So when I think about it from that standpoint, and you look at Texas, I mean, even in some of the most prime markets of Austin, I'm seeing around 275 to 325 a square foot. So generally speaking, right? And I say that because you're from that standpoint alone, you're 5 to 6 times more affordable than something like the Bay Area, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, we're still a bargain. Of course, everybody wants to say that we're getting too expensive, but we're still affordable. We're still very, very affordable. Right now, City of Austin, you need about $500,000 to buy a quality home in the city. If you have a smaller budget, you just need to go further out. If you've got a bigger budget, you're going to get something closer to downtown, or you're going to get something that's much nicer. But like Tom said, at $250 a square foot, you can still buy a lot of house for your money, especially if we think about the money that the employees make that live here. You need about 120,000 to buy a $400,000 to $500,000 house. And that for 2 people working, that's actually very doable.
Yep.
So, we talked about from the national standpoint, what had happened in 2020, in addition to COVID, the supply issue that we've had. But I want to talk in particular about Austin and what our prices, what's driving our prices. Number one, I think the tech jobs and the tech salaries, 30% of Austin jobs are in the category of management, finance, business, computer, engineering, and science sectors. 30%. These are wages that pay. These are jobs that have good wages. They can afford $400 and $500 easily. The low interest rates, these are set at the federal level, and Austin didn't need them at all. Early on during COVID, the Fed kept those rates intentionally low, really as a lever to the economy to encourage spending, continue the economy. And that really just made things cheaper here. So our prices rapidly did increase, I think, due to low interest rates. We also have low unemployment. We're nearly 100% recovered from the COVID joblessness. Our unemployment right now is around 4 to 5%. And arguably could even be less. Our population growth. The 2020 census shows, let's just say, about 900,000 people in Austin, up 20% from 10 years ago, and averaging 3 to 6% annually. Tom had said earlier, it's about 100 people a day. If you just imagine 100 people a day moving here, you can really understand the grave need that we have for additional housing units. We have a really serious housing shortage in Austin.
Yeah. In fact, Carrie, I read an article and I did a podcast recently with Jeremy Knight on this. I think today the MSA of Austin's around 2.2 million, give or take. By the year 2040, all right, that's what, 18 years away, give or 19 years away, it will be 4.5 million, right? And so there's a lot of people now that are predicting that the MSA of San Antonio, which by the way is also growing rapidly, going up all the way up to Georgetown and beyond, will essentially merge into one MSA. That's how fast the population growth is happening. And back to what Marco was saying, you do want to be buying assets in areas where they have the population migration. So
absolutely. That population growth and the supply issue is going to keep our prices up.
Yep.
Plus, we're a cool place to live.
Yeah.
And then the last point being, the stock market's really high, as we know. But hey, I'm just saying that's more money in the system. And it's the money in the system that's contributing to these rising prices and the prices that I think we're going to continue to see. We talked about maybe a 3 to 5% annual appreciation nationwide. I anticipate that Austin, still has several years before we'd meet that. We're still at only 1 month of inventory in Austin. Now that's up. Our inventory is up.
Yeah.
It's up from like 10 days. We had like 10 days of inventory in February. And now here in the fall, we've got about 1 month, which is still.
We're building in Lockhart, as you know, Carrie, our two subdivisions. Inventory there is about 2 to 3 weeks.
Incredible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 to 3 weeks. And this is basically a rural town that is a bedroom community to a suburb of the Austin metro. But it shows how there's such a shortage of housing in the center city district that people are moving to these outlying areas, and the housing demand is just as strong out there.
Yep.
So, hey, this is just another slide here to demonstrate what's going on in Austin is that we do have a lot of famous people living here. We don't even have a sports team, a professional sports team. Well, I guess we just got our soccer team, but it's not like we have professional football or professional baseball. We have the famous people that live here are actors, musicians, entrepreneurs. Willie Nelson, Sandra Bullock, Kendra Scott, Matthew McConaughey, the list goes on. And I think that adds to the allure of living in Austin. I was having brunch at Sandra Bullock's brunch, and she came by with her son, and I was just shocked that it happened. But I think that's normal. I think there's a lot of people here in Austin undercover.
Let me tell you a little story. I was at dinner with a guy who worked in oil a couple of weeks back, and he lives out in Lakeway, which is 25 to 30 minutes west of downtown Austin. And he was saying in his neighborhood, he's seeing all these NFL athletes move there. They live in other cities, but when they're done, they're all moving here to Austin. And some of the names are like Odell Beckham, for example. And I don't really watch much football, but he was naming some big names apparently, and they're all moving out west towards Spicewood, Lakeway, Bee Cave. So
beautiful areas, right?
Gorgeous, yeah.
And such a deal, right? I mean, the houses in Spicewood are gorgeous estate homes, right? Some of them have views of the hill country, the wine area here of Central Texas, rolling hills, great sunsets.
That's beautiful.
And they're $1 million, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the house I'm building is 3,500 square feet, and it's probably valued at 1.2 million. And I have views of the hills and a rooftop patio.
Yeah, fabulous, right?
I mean,
and that's huge, and that's still a deal. And it's going to always be a deal when we look at these other cities that has similar attributes to Austin.
Yep, that's right.
So here's a list here of our top employers, just to see numbers and then to see some of these names too. The 3M, everybody knows that from the sticky notes, the Post-it notes. They're out of Minnesota actually, but they've got a huge office here and they have for a long time. They've been here for like 30 years. And now Apple Computer, 6,200. That's a lot. Applied Materials, they're a big guy too, in the semiconductor, I believe.
Yeah, and there's I don't know if you have two. Yeah, you do. You have two. Okay, here you go. Yeah, you have Samsung, and I think they're adding 2,000 or 4,000 jobs out there in Taylor. You got obviously Tesla's. I don't think that's even on here, right? Do you have that?
Yeah, not yet, really.
Yeah, right. He has a boring
But
company
Tesla's
coming
going to
here.
have like 5,000
Yeah.
factory employees, right? Line employees.
Yep.
We don't even have a place for them to live,
Yeah,
honestly.
it's crazy, and that's actually the bigger concern with these employers is that there's not enough housing. So
Huge concern. We've
yeah,
got to
which
do
is
something about it. We need to add more units. We need
yeah.
to improve our
Elon's
zoning.
rumor has it. So I don't know if you saw this in the news, but he's beginning to work with developers now to sort of integrate his solar panels with their developments. And I believe it's Easton Park where he is going to be announced. He might be going to Easton Park to talk with the president of the development, announcing this sort of plan. But he's someone that if he has to get involved in development to make it work, he's going to do it, right? So
Yeah, it's amazing how much he's fast tracked the construction of
yeah,
his plant, his factory. He's actually contributed to the shortage of like concrete. It's massive, and he's so good at running that project. He's built that factory at record speeds.
yep.
Hot blocks. This is something that started here. Save that link. It's pretty cool. Big projects to small projects. If you want to know what's going on block by block, you can really inch through the city and see what's going on. And I recommend that for when you're doing some sort of property analysis. You're looking for a place to live. You're looking for a place to invest. You want to know the future. I think it's really important to know what other development projects are going nearby, because I think that drives value and future appreciation. So
Yeah, I mean, off the top of your head, I know the few things that are happening. Obviously, Oracle's building out their new campus in the southeast. There's a lot of activity out in Dripping Springs too, which is the southwest. I've heard the rumors of building a new highway out there to essentially blow up that entire area, similar to like a Cedar Park, which is, for you that don't know, Austin is an area that has really grown over the last 5 years. What else are you hearing as rumors aside from Disney?
I don't know, rumors. I guess I don't follow the rumors, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure about Disney. I know that Jeremy Knight did a piece on that. It's possible that Disney will do something here, but that's in the future, like 5 years, I think, a larger horizon.
Yeah. I see things. I think though you're right. I know the Buffalo Bills were being trying to be poached to come to Austin. Obviously, who knows?
Hey,
right?
and getting our first soccer team, getting
Yeah.
a professional soccer team, huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so forever Austin just had UT football. People follow the college sports team like it's a major league, but now we've got soccer, and I feel like that brought us to a new level.
Well, that and the tickets are sold out. You can't even get tickets, right? So if it's any indication of how much this city is dying for sports, that's a good indication.
Yeah. So as far as a pipeline, future and rumors, I could see more sports.
Yeah. I know there's some other commercial developments happening. So if you do some more research of Austin, there is south towards Kyle and Buda. There's something up north called the Domain, and they're building something 2 times the size of the Domain. And then of course East Riverside too, Carrie. That's a big one. Yeah,
mixed use, retail, residential, huge. I feel like the walkability, the attractiveness of live, work, play, that type of development is really big right now. We're seeing that both on the inner city infill lots, and we're seeing it in the suburbs and the exurbs. But it's kind of a new way to build community. So you have, a coffee shop, and then you have some apartment rentals, and then you have some maybe duplexes or fourplexes, and a small grocery store. We're seeing that type of development even in Cedar Park and Leander.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of big things. And so if you want some more information, again, we'll send this out after the event, which is wrapping up here in a minute, and then you'll have all the access to the links and everything else. Anything else, Carrie, that you think is worth mentioning in terms of the growth of Austin, or if there's an out-of-state buyer, what they might want to consider?
Yeah, I think location is still really, really important. That's always a big driver in real estate. And right now in this market where it's the inventory is tight, I still think it's just as important as ever to make a smart buy. You're making money when you buy. You're losing money when you buy, and making sure that we get you a property that is in a great location, and also trying to buy a property that has value add, right? I mean, everything's expensive right now. Most deals are on the MLS. It's pretty hard to get something off market that's worth it. Maybe a few options if you have cash. But if you're just a regular finance deal, it's still very competitive, and you need to make smart decisions and find property that has embedded value, extra little things that in the long run will help your property appreciate faster and make a good resale when you're done with your buy and hold. That's kind of my take right now, where we're going.
Yeah, and we had a question. Are there any properties in Austin that cash flow?
Not really.
Yeah.
I wish. We've got too much interest in Austin, right? So these big companies are looking at us. Wall Street's looking at us. The iBuyers are looking at us. And we've got that population growth again, the supply issue that we can't get away from. And these recent price increases have always been stronger, faster than the rents. Now we've seen some huge rent increases. Stuff used to rent for, say, $1,900 in the suburbs of like Round Rock, and now there's some you can get like $2,200, $2,300. So I've seen rents go up, $200 to $400 from last year to this year, but there's still just no cash flow. So unfortunately, I do get folks that come to me that want to make monthly cash flow, and I can't help them.
Yep.
That's not where you're going to make money in Austin.
Yep.
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think there are some tertiary markets. If you're lucky to find something out in like Taylor or Manor, which I doubt you are anymore, up in like Fort Hood, all the way down towards San Antonio, you might go find something. But I think where the money is being made is for those that are building homes in Texas, or I guess in Austin, and of course what we're doing with the land development. That's where I see the money being made. It's just a different game. As a rental market, if you're willing to put down a sizable down payment, maybe you get cap rates of 3 to 5%, maybe. But I think I have a buddy who runs a commercial arm of a little boutique firm, and he's always looking for big deals. And across the market in general, cap rates for a quality product are 4 to 6%. So if you're paying 2 to 5 or 2 to 4 for Austin, you really got to consider the potential of Austin versus whatever other market you're looking at for those cap rates of 5 or 6. So what I'm saying is, across the nation, it's hard to find cash flowing properties, but if you're going to be tight anyways, then you got to look for upside potential. And I think many would argue Austin has a ton of upside potential. So.
Yeah, and I still think we're really affordable compared to where our wages are, right?
Yeah.
And then where we are to other cities. So I said that I was just in Colorado and New Mexico, and we spent some time looking at property in Santa Fe. And Santa Fe is a great tourist destination.
Yeah, beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Lots of outdoor stuff. The art is really cool, but oh my God, really expensive.
So expensive.
So expensive. And there's really no middle class there. It's like poverty or some new wealth that is not organic to the area. There's no organic wealth in Santa Fe, and there is organic wealth in Austin. Yep. And then another city that we looked at on my trip here was Denver and Boulder. And those cities are great too. Good transportation, good outdoor life, very active, smart folks. But their prices are pretty crazy too. So we're still less expensive than those three cities that I just
Yeah,
visited.
I think one thing to talk about, and without getting into politics too much, but don't forget that Texas is a pro-business, low-regulation state, generally speaking. And now Travis County or the city core of Austin is a little trickier, but relative to California or like a Connecticut or New York, it's not even close. So, and a lot of guys or gals in my industry that are doing the development and the building, they'll take a project in Austin if it makes sense, longer timelines, but that's why a lot of us are building on just the outskirts, right? So you're seeing a lot of development in these towns that are just outside the city limits, so we can get extremely pro build, extremely low regulation cities that we can work with to make these things happen very quickly. So it's a really good state or city for business. Clearly, that's why you're seeing Samsung come in, a $17 billion investment for a plant, and Tesla and Oracle and everyone else. But just for outside of your traditional business, it's a really strong area to do business. And from doing business on the ground, shaking hands with local Texans, it's been a really great experience to see how that works with a nice balance, and it's not to a point where there's so much growth, where there's pollution or any of that. It's almost, it seems like it's the right balance between regulation and pro business versus sort of that regulation. So
I agree. And then if you live here, no income tax.
yeah, of course, yeah. And you hear the argument of property tax, and it is true. It's between roughly 2.2 to 2.9%, depending where you're at. But again, you have a $500,000 house, so you're paying $10,000 a year in property taxes. Conversely, you look at California, $1 million house with 1.4% property tax. You're still paying more property tax on a home in California, in New York, in Jersey than you would be paying in Austin on a dollar basis.
Yeah. And then if you look at your income tax on that, the savings is greater on the income side than the property side, right? So if I lived in California, I'd be paying more to Uncle Sam and Uncle California and the income side than I would on property tax. Right. So with no income tax and a higher property tax, we're still better off in Texas.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And we have better barbecue. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, hey, Carrie, as always, thank you for your time. Anyone who has questions about Austin specific, this is the person you want to reach out to and, go from there. So again, I'll put her contact in the information in the email after this. And Carrie, as always, it's been great.
All right. Thank you, Tom. This was excellent. Nice job.